Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on how to navigate divorce for men, how coaching can help you navigate divorce. It's maybe our last one before the summer holiday, so please enjoy. I am joined by Audrey. Audrey, would you like to say a few words to introduce yourself?
Of course. Thank you, Sarah Jane. So I'm Audrey. I'm a divorce coach. I'm based in London, and I coach men and women around divorce and all the stages of divorce, before, during, and after your divorce. So that's in a nutshell what I do, but we're going to talk about it a bit more maybe in the webinar, and especially around men coaching, yes.
So today we are doing this webinar and we're live on Facebook also. So thank you. If you, I need to tell you that if you want to ask questions, do not hesitate. We're here to answer them. We really like it when it's interactive and you can ask what you want. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself. For those who don't know, I'm Tasteyre. I'm a French family lawyer. I work in Hong Kong and in England. I assist mainly French nationals who live outside of France in areas of international family law, estate planning, and cross-border probates. And I've been working with Audrey for quite a while now to assist people navigate their divorce. And Audrey and I thought that everybody understood that divorce coaching was for men and women alike. But the number of questions we received made us rethink the way we talked about divorce coaching. And this is the reason why we decided to do this webinar today, to make people understand that whenever we talk about divorce coaching, it's for men and women alike. Of course, like all areas of life, there are differences between men and women. I'm not telling you anything new, but the coaching in general is really for everybody. And as you will see today, sometimes men really need it more than women would do because they're not used to dealing with their emotions. During previous webinars, we've talked about all areas of divorce and mainly how to deal on, well, explaining on how we can intervene in every stages of the divorce. So for men, it's the same. We're going to talk about four main points today, which are realizing that for men, that they have emotions. That's the main thing, because of course, it's not something they like to talk about, and they prefer to repress their emotions. Once you know and you realize that you have those emotions, how do you deal with them? And then how do you communicate once you can deal with the emotions? And then the fourth point will be, how do you move forward? Once Audrey has given you all the tips about dealing with your emotions, how can you move forward and rebuild your life? And the fourth point, which is really important in my opinion, because that's what I deal with every day, is for men to realize that they have, of course, obligations, but also that they have rights. So as a divorce lawyer, when I, of course, see all types of clients, you will have from men and women, but we're talking about men today. You will have the person who has initiated the divorce, who wants to divorce for whatever reason, or the man who is surprised by the divorce that his wife has decided, and he was totally unaware that there was something going wrong in the relationship. So you have those different types, which you would have with women also. But with men, you will have also two main way of dealing with that would be either feeling really guilty. For instance, if I give you the example of a man divorcing after 40 years of marriage, just because he's had enough, but he will feel really guilty towards his wife. Or the other extreme would be to say, "You want a divorce? Okay, so you won the war, we'll get it. It's going to be really difficult for you. You won't have any money," things like that. So it's really, as you can see, very extreme reactions that coaching can help deal with. So let's start with emotions, Audrey.
Yes. Thank you, Sarah Jane, for the introduction. Indeed, emotions, men feel emotions too. And they feel anger, sadness, panic or guilt or fear. They feel all these emotions, but they tend to suppress them and not express them. Often they don't turn to support in this case. They just keep them inside them and they don't ask for support. And that's the main difference with women, because we tend to share our emotions, with our friends or family, but men, even with their friends, I don't think they would share so much emotions. So it's less acceptable in a way for men to feel all these emotions, even though culture is changing and society is changing. It's still very difficult to express this for men. I feel like how coaching can help in that situation, for example, would be maybe to first learn about your relationship, the failed relationship, and where did you fail your partner, or in what way you can be a better husband or boyfriend in the future, and accepting your own role and responsibility. Because often, it's like in grief, they are grieving period, and all the grief stages, you have to go through all of them and not stop at the first emotion, which often for men is denial and anger, and they stop there. You have to go through the whole process until the acceptance of this new situation, this new life that is ahead of you. And to do that, it's good to process what happened in your couple. What is your responsibility in this failed relationship? How can you move forward from it and stop being in that denial, anxiety and fear circle? Often it's true that an emotion that society accepts is anger from men, and many men stay angry. Maybe, they lost a life, they feel like they lost their identity as well. And they feel out of control of their life. So anger can be a tool for them to regain power and regain control in their life. They could feel like if they hurt their ex-partner with words or actions, then they will be in control again. So the longer for a man, I feel, to accept this new reality, the longer it will take for them to recover and rebuild a healthy life. A life that is really, they feel good in it, and that they can express all their feeling. Another point I feel like is good to mention, it's like men also crave emotional relationship and support and connection. It's not just women. So it's important for them to develop feelings of hope and try to move forward. So I would say, think about the grieving period. Don't skip all the stages, and try to move on from one to the next. It takes time. So it's acceptance about that. It could take a year or two maybe to get over your divorce. But between denial and acceptance, there are 4 or 5 stages of grief, and it's important that you get through them. Often what men tend to do, if I may, is it can be a mistake, but they tend to rush into another relationship to avoid feeling and thinking of what's happened to them. So in a match, they meet someone new, and then they will suddenly suppress all the feelings and disappointment of the failed marriage. And sometimes it is not the best for them because it's not the right person. They just rushed into something to avoid feeling and to avoid thinking about what happened and what is their responsibility in this. Also, another mistake that men can do is turning into excessive activity or recreation. It could be work or leisure. It could be too much exercise, working too much, or drinking too much, taking drugs. Any area of their life, they could be doing it in an excessive way. And it happened to women sometimes when they tend to maybe exercise a lot too and focus on their physical appearance. So sometimes it's also a way to close your eyes and just focus yourself on something. So that would be really the first comments I could share on emotions and how men deal with emotions. Yes.
I think there are two things to say about that. First, that if we make a comparison between, because people often ask the difference between going to see a coach or going to see a therapist, I think in some cases you need both. But for men, we've discussed about the fact that going to see a therapist is always something difficult because there's the negative, what's linked to going to see a therapist is the fear that it may be used against them. That's for women. For men, very few men go and see a therapist anyway, but men don't like to talk. Well, they talk, but about general things. They won't talk about their feelings, like you've just said. So when they meet up with their friends, they just drink beer or wine, but they don't really, if they're going through a divorce, it's very rare that they will talk to their best friend about it. They will just say, "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm okay." And then that will be it. So a coach, I think, divorce coach would be somebody, if they go to see a therapist, they'll say, "Oh, I don't want to talk to someone. What's the point in lying on a couch and talking about my problems?" Whereas if they're going to see a divorce coach, the divorce coach, you, Audrey, will give them tips. And that's what they want, men. They want to be active. They don't want to be faced with their feelings because, as you say, it's very difficult for them to deal with them. So that was the first point, to say that ideally you should go and see a coach and a therapist. But for men, I would say from experience that a divorce coach will be more efficient for them in the first stages. Second, what is very important in our society is to realize, and we all know that for women, it's very easy. It's like, it's everywhere. When you get a divorce, now it's very easy to get help. It's on all magazines, on television, and podcasts. Women are very good at finding support and realizing earlier than men that they need to rebuild themselves. Men, they really, don't think about rebuilding themselves. For them, it's just like, let's not talk about it and move on, without realizing what everything you've just said with regards to emotion. And if we can compare to what's happened in society, if we look at mental health, for a long time, we didn't talk about it at all. Then we talked about it for women. It was very accepted, even fashionable, to talk about mental health in women. And lately, especially with lockdown, we have accepted that men can have mental health issues. And it's by talking about it that men have been able to go and see therapists when, they have been feeling unwell. And I think that's very important if what we're trying to do with Audrey is make divorce coaching more accessible to everybody, but particularly for men. So this is what I wanted to say with regards to emotion, because there are less, men can have less access to that kind of information. So after talking about that, let's talk about communication, Audrey. Now that we know that we have emotions, now that we know how to deal with them, how can men communicate better? Because they're not very, we've mentioned that they're not very good about communication, are they?
No, I mean it's really useful for men and women. But yes, the processing of the feelings, of course, it takes. That's what I do, in my practice, and having that ear, someone listening deeply to you. And once you learn your mistakes, you learn what happened in your marriage and how why did it fail. You can also realize how you were communicating maybe in your marriage, and how to change your communication now that you're more aware of all the habits you may have had, and it's normal habits, many people have them in couples. It's nothing to blame. And actually my first tip would be, first, even if your partner or ex-partner in that case made a mistake or did something that hurt you in the past, it's about not blaming the person. So avoiding all the blame, and it's your fault, and you always do that, and you never do this, and it's again it's what happened in this is your fault. So this is often what we do when we are angry and in this denial. That's why I'm stressing the fact that it's good to move on from this stage and get away from it. Another tip I would say about communication, it's often the 50-50, it could be the 30-70 or whatever applies to you or to the situation, but it's about sharing responsibility. And, in an argument, we always have a share of responsibilities, not just the fault on one person. It's also how we react to a situation that could cause an argument, and how we only see maybe one point of view, another point of view of the person, etc. So it's about being aware of, okay, we're not agreeing there, we could argue, but I may have a little bit of responsibility. So how can I stop this argument before it gets too far, and accept or listen? And actually my third tip would be about deep listening, active listening. So once, your ex-partner, maybe she feels she's at a loss of something, it could be big decisions you may have to take together, about where to live, or the children, or, there are lots of decisions to take in, and emotions can be so strong at that time. It's very hard to know if it's the right decision, and really what to do. So I would say, if you listen deeply to your partner, to your ex-partner, it's a step to maybe really understand what are their needs and how they feel. And maybe you can let go. Maybe some things are not so important to you, and you can say, okay, actually, I don't mind, you can have that, or yeah, we can share, the kids on that day, or anything. It's about really deeply listening of what is your partner, ex-partner is trying to tell you, and also understanding. And that way she will also listen to you a lot more. She will also listen to you and be more aware of what your needs are and your expectation in this divorce. So it's really a gain for everybody, if I may say. And the last one, it's valid for many situations in life, but it's about timing. And it's about, if you want to talk to something about something to your ex, maybe don't do it when she is absolutely stressed, or just after work or early in the morning. I don't know, anytime the person that would be causing her a lot of stress, and she won't be receptive to your call, to your message, etc. So I know sometimes it's hard, because we want to share straight away. We want to pick up the phone and say, why did you do that? And all of this. So first some blames at the wrong time, and it could cause more acrimony between you and in the divorce process, and it could take longer to reach an agreement. So that's 4 tips on communication that anyone could use, really.
That's what I was going to say. Those tips can be used in a marriage. Before, if you know those, it seems common sense, but we tend to forget. Timing. That's really an important one. And listening. That's the basic thing to do. So those tips, really, as always, your tips, are bang on. If we follow your tips, things would be much easier in everyday life if we use those 4 tips. Now, going on to what I think is very important also when I deal with men and divorce, and dads more particularly, is the issue of rights and obligation of dads. because what I see most of the time is dads who believe wrongly that they have no rights with regard to their children and that they only have financial obligations. So we need to put this right. In our society, dads are increasingly hands-on during a marriage. They, you know, even if they work, they will try to be there in their children's life, taking a more active role. And most, you know, in a lot of couples, especially in Hong Kong, in expat couples, we have seen an increasing numbers of dads who have who resign for their job to follow their wives in Hong Kong, and therefore being a dad at home. So it's just to show you that this idea of the mother being the only one being able to look after the children is no longer one that we should sustain. I mean, men and women should be equal in their life, in the children's life. So as we've mentioned before, it doesn't mean a 50-50 division of time. It's just about being able to keep the strong bond that a child has with his dad, even if it's only during the holidays, but they need to not forget about their relationship with their child, but sometimes to fight for it, because that's really important. Audrey and I are not telling you that you need to fight just for nothing. It's just to make sure that you can keep the same place in your children's life than you did before the divorce. We often see dads who will say, well, I've got no hope to get my children living with me, so I won't do anything about it. I think it's worth, even just for you, so that your children know that you fought for them to do something about it. If I refer to French law, the rights and obligation of the parents are equal. They need to financially, but also emotionally, be there for their children. So men need to realize that they have the same rights and they need to fight for those rights. All the tips that Audrey has given us today until now will help you, men, to realize that you have a you're worth something, because sometimes divorce just makes you think that, like women, we also often talk about women having no confidence. Well, it happens to men too. The problem is with men in relation to children will be that for a long time they share everything with the mother. And sometimes, of course, maybe the mothers are more at ease with organizing day-to-day life. So men will feel that they can't do it, but they can. They have to believe in it. They have to believe that they can be a great solo parent, single parent, and they have to start from there to be able to have the same place in their children's lives. This leads me to talk about the financial aspects, because we can also see, I have often clients that say, all they want is the money. I'm only here to pay. So the reaction will be, well, just cut off everything and just won't give them much. So it could be the opposite reaction. So we have really a scope of reaction for men, those who will just say, I feel so guilty for what's happening, for my decision to divorce, so I'll just give them whatever they want. But you need to bear in mind that you also need money to live. If you give everything, you might regret it afterwards. You need to strike a balance. It's always about communication, striking a balance between what is reasonable to give, what the other is asking, and what you can give. So you really, and working with Audrey will help you to see things clearly, to get rid a bit of the guilt. it's very difficult to deal with guilt. You don't get rid of it just like that. And to make sure that if you are the one who is more financially comfortable, that you give what's right and not too much. So this is what I wanted to say from the lawyer's point of view, because that's mainly what I have to deal with, trying to get people to be more reasonable in their approach. But being reasonable doesn't mean letting go of everything. Audrey,
Yes.
your turn.
Thank you, Sarah Jane. Yes, you made good point there, actually, and then to jump on the children, and men relationship, maybe to start with, and then I can add to that. Men often feel that they're not part of their children life anymore so much, and they could, as you mentioned, maybe give up on it. And it's important, or they feel like they have no rights, as you mentioned, for their children, towards their children, and it can lead to a lot of frustrations for them. So it's really important that they, as you mentioned, they have rights and they can be supported as single fathers. I know it's easier. I mean, I was a single mom, and I know it's very hard. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was really hard. But I feel like maybe women have a bit more support network, because we drop the kids to school, or the pickup, or between mom. There's a community that, if I couldn't pick up my daughter, I could call another mom. I'm not sure men have the same network, because they just work. Yeah, they drop the kids maybe in the morning, and then they go to work, and they have no contact with schools. So it's about making them aware that, yes, it's a bit harder, but keep trying, keep doing it, and maybe reimagine the relationship you can have with your children. Now that you're a solo parent, how can I be in their life, even if it's not 50-50? Maybe it's not a shared custody, a shared, maybe they see their children less, but it doesn't matter, as long as they have the idea of how they want to rebuild the relationship, what do they want in it, and maybe having some different habits they can build with the kids. Maybe if it's they pick them up from school once a week, or whatever it is that they do. So that's really important. So sometimes I find the ex-wife can help sometime, because I feel with men, they lose their identity when they're not part of the couple anymore. And they feel, as you said, they lose their confidence too. They feel with their self-esteem, they feel they have nothing anymore, because they could lose their children, they lost their wife. I mean, whoever decided that the marriage is over, this feeling will be there. So maybe the ex can help, just to make sure that they keep the relationship going with their children, and you will give them a sense of belonging to something. And that for men is vital, actually, really vital for men identity, to rebuild and to get out of this anger and guilt feeling, and rebuild their confidence and rebuild their life. And what I say towards that is also the vision that they want to have. We talk about this a lot, and in coaching, as you mentioned, we are more into the action of what can you do now that you are single, you are solo parent. What can you do now to rebuild your life? And it's the same as I would ask a woman, but what is your vision in 6 months, in 2 years, in 5 years? What did I learn that that I could apply to my life now? Every relationship can teach you something. So what did I learn? How can I be a better person in the future, and grow emotionally? Really have a sense of heal your past wounds. And that's the work I do in the coaching. It's about healing the wounds of the past relationship, what have stopped you, what have blocked you, what are your fears, and how to overcome the pattern that you created all these years, and which maybe led to the failed relationship. So it's about growing as well, and it's a word many of my clients use, actually, this word. It's about growing as a person, reinventing yourself, and creating a new vision. That's why I'm often saying, don't rush into anything like too soon, because this time is for you first, to rebuild and to reconnect with yourself, who you are as a person, instead of who you are as a couple. So it's a time that it's important to take, have a short-term, maybe a short-term goal of finding a new hobby, connecting with old friends. This is great, and have an older, a longer-term goal of pursuing your life vision and how to access it, how to rebuild it, and what it is, because sometimes we have no idea. Many of my clients have no idea what do they want, and is the work we do as well is to help them think what they really want, in the future. So that's yes, that's what I would say about action, because men often want action. It's important to feel that they can move forward, and coaching help for that. I mean, they probably know coaching maybe at work, and it's very similar principles in a way, except it's more applied to.
They need to realize that they can do that, and that's what we're trying to, the message that we're trying to give is that men need help to feel better and to take those actions. So talking about trying to sum up a bit everything that you've told us today, I think that we really need to remind men first they need help, even though they don't realize it. They need to express their emotion, they need to communicate, they need to move forward, and they need to realize that they don't only have obligations towards their children, they will also have rights, and it always has to be in the interest of the child, and the interest of the child is to see both parents. So it's all about balance between what you want, what the child needs, and being able to do all that. And that's what the coach will help you achieve. I think we've covered everything, Audrey, today. I don't know if there are any questions. It's time to your last chance to ask them today. You can, of course.
Oh, sorry, Sarah Jane. I just want to say something, that it's okay. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad, and it's okay. I mean, it's and the space I create is that it's about, this is the time is for the person. It's okay to cry. It's okay. And often men deny these feelings, but they're allowed to. I mean, it's okay for men to feel all these feelings. Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to say that. It's important that they feel like they can.
Emphasize this. We have one question. I'd be interested to know if it's more common in Hong Kong for men to initiate divorce than women. So for me, I usually deal with expat communities. So I don't know if it's linked to Hong Kong, but it's roughly the same depending on the age group. It will be more or less the women. After a certain age, if they have enough, they've had enough of the relationship, the women will initiate. Men, I feel, take the initiative later on in life, when they're about to retire, and they just think, no, I can't deal with it anymore. Let's start afresh for the retirement. I would say that would be younger women will take the initiative, men will take it later. At the end of the day, I would say that women usually take the initiative more than men do, because as I was saying to begin with, men don't always realize that something's wrong in the relationship. Most of them are very surprised when the women decide to initiate divorce. It's a bit cliche, but usually men, they will want the divorce when they've had what I call extracurricular activities, when they've had another relationship and the new women in their lives put pressure on them to get a divorce. That usually would be the case in younger men. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think it's for me. Have you had a couple reconcile after divorce coaching, or would be good to know some example of how the communication or relationship with their ex has improved? Yes, I mean, I just coached actually a couple they were not sure about divorcing or not. And it was really tense between them, so tense that they couldn't communicate at all. And we had a couple of sessions together, the three of us. And after that, they decided to separate. But once we had a session about the separation decision, they were much calmer. There was no more screaming. That we had a lot of strong emotions going on. So I feel that it can help definitely, couples, but also ex-couples, because it's all about how you share your needs, your wants, your feelings to the other person. And once you're aware of there are ways to share that could hurt the other person, or ways to share that you can actually gain or benefit from it a bit more, have a better outcome, then you choose the better outcome. But it takes a little while to make them weighing the gain and the loss, I would say. What is costing you to react in a very angry way, or what is the gain of actually reacting in a better way. So for men, I would say they would gain benefit to communicate better with their ex, because they can have a better divorce, more amicable divorce, also better relationship with their children. Especially if they have children, they're going to communicate for many years maybe. So it's important that they are aware of, and also it fires back to them. Yes, if they communicate in a more, I would say, stable, emotionally more controlled way, then their ex will communicate the same way. It's about stepping up, and yes.
But sometimes I've realized during mediation, using your tools of communication, Audrey, that sometimes men just don't realize that they're not communicating, and they don't realize why their spouse is angry with the lack of communication or the lack of reaction, because they've always dealt with things like that. And it's just saying to them, explaining to them, well, your wife is angry because you're not reacting or you're not doing that. And maybe just tell them, just simply reply to an email or reply to a WhatsApp, and things will, instead of thinking, oh, she knows my answer. No, she doesn't. She can't. We often have this, those problems of communication, because the man will think, well, she knows, we've always done like that. Well, in divorce proceedings, it may not be right. You really need to express yourself like you've never done before. So maybe those tips that we use, I've seen a lot of progress in some couples through mediation by using those tips about communication.
It's about being aware of how you communicate, and what can you do to have to have your ideas understood better by the other side. And men can only benefit from it. I mean, I'm not going to tell them what to do. I never say to my clients what to do, of how to act, but it's about being aware and choosing another way. And we work on that. Sometimes we do role play with my clients, etc. Another.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Preventing divorce is also part of my work. I mean, it's so important. Even if you come alone and you're not happy in your relationship, and you don't know, is it because of the couple? Is it because of me? Or what is it about? And sometimes it can be both about changing a few things in your life, your own life, knowing about your values, your life vision, and things like that, taking new actions. And the couple can improve after that, naturally. It's not just about the couple, it's about you. That's why when I coach the person, I don't coach the partner that's not in the room. And that's, sometimes it can be enough. Thank you so much, Pinili. Thank you for your, kind word and encouragement. Really appreciate it.
On that subject, the fact that you can coach families, not families, but couples, it's one of the other difference with therapists that we've talked about before. A therapist, if he starts working with one of the spouse, cannot work with both, and vice versa, because of the rules. You have different rules that enable you to work with both of them, and then only one of them, etc. So that can be really helpful. As you've said, you've had a person come to see you, then come with his spouse to try and see whether or not divorce was really on the cards, or if there were other ways of dealing with it. So that's also something very important to understand, that you can do both. You can.
There are rules and boundaries, definitely, and we agree to them at the start, because that's important to respect everybody and to know how to share what I can share. And but yes, of course, yes, it's compared to a therapist. And also we don't work so much on the past, the child. We work really on the couple now and how to improve the relationship. That's also a difference, yes.
So thank you all for attending this webinar. We will be doing a special webinar during the summer for those who really need help, who are struggling, because we all know that the summer, the children's holiday, is always a difficult period when your couple is on the rocks. So we'll be doing a special session on that. In the meantime, we are working on a new project with Audrey, which would be revealed in September. Well, we can say it today. It's a podcast, a weekly podcast, to bring everybody tips, hopes, all the people going through a divorce, or also other professionals. If you want to join, do not hesitate to contact us as usual. Feel free to, if you have more questions, to contact us directly. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Audrey.
No, I just say, yes, thank you for announcing the podcast. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be great. And also wanted to say I've got a free workbook on my website with lots of exercises, questions, little tools. It's about defining maybe your new vision of your life. And you can start with that. It gives you a bit of hope and a bit of food for thought. So feel free to download it. It's free on my website, and it's how we put it. I don't know if we put the AudreyZcoaching.com, but I'm sure.
But Audrey, anyway, you always send a replay to everybody.
Anyway, so yes, let's put the contact in the.
You put your address, and I put mine. Okay.
Fine. Yes, I have. We have lots of free resources on my website or regularly on the social media, etc. So really feel free to follow us even on Facebook or Instagram.
You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram for Audrey, Twitter. So just put our names and you'll find us. But here are our addresses in the chat. Is that it? So thank you all. It's been a pleasure as usual, Audrey.
Thank you, Sarah Jane.
And see you soon, either for our webinars or our podcast. Have a lovely summer.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.